into another episode of Planet Nerdtooine. I am here once again, your host, Nerdtooine, with my great co-host, the guy who does a lot of stuff here, even though he doesn't think he does, Year of the Collector. First and foremost, I want to apologize for last week. I was severely under the weather and could not make the recording, so that is why this episode is going to be jam-packed with a lot of great stuff. We are going to start the show by discussing what is a key comic. Now, I want to give Year the floor and let him what he thinks a key comic is, and then we're going to discuss from there.
You make it sound like we're gonna have like a philosophical debate about what is a key comic book.
Well, unfortunately, at this time, it is a philosophical debate. That's why we're here talking about it, because some people seem to not know what it is.
All right, so I'm gonna give you the quick definition that you can find on Google, because I know that people that watches us, they do their research. So just in case, so you see we're not like making stuff up, right? Like in the world of comic books, a key issue refers to a comic book that is considered particularly important or valuable due to a variety of reasons. Excuse me. This can be the first appearance of a major character or a minor character, the origin story. It could be a significant event, the first appearance of a villain, right? It could be because there was a limited print run on that issue for whatever reason, or the book itself might have some historical or a cultural significance to it, whether it's because of what's in the comic, what's in the story, or what's the theme touch during the issue, or maybe because there was some type of like political statement or cultural statement through the work of the creators, right? Like those are some prime examples, right? Like Amazing Fantasy number 15, the first appearance of Spider-Man. Action Comics number 1, the first appearance of Superman. Detective Comics 32, the first appearance of Batman, right? Like those are your blue chip, like like your no shit key comic books that everybody knows about. But there are a couple things here and there that add to the lore, sometimes to the history of the characters, that can be considered keys as well. A new costume, the death of a character, the marriage of a character, right? Anything of significance that might happen or might take place inside those 32 pages that left an impact on the world of comic books.
Yep. No, I think you couldn't have worded that better. I mean, that's what it is. So the reason why I wanted to talk about this in this episode is because I've seen a lot of things lately that have made me question whether or not that is the true meaning anymore. I see a lot of different sources, and this is one of the few times where I'm going to name drop because I think it's important that I do. Someplace like Key Collectors, they just decided that cover Bs, any exclusives, anything like that has no key value. And I'm sorry, that is absolutely fucking wrong. I understand that this is in comics, it's very much in the eye of the beholder. My good friends from the CCJ boys at the comics, they sell comics, and they've been fans of comics for a while. They said to me, it's all in the eye of the beholder, and it appears that a lot of people don't know what's in their eye at this time.
They don't know what they're looking at.
They don't, and it's partially because of things like that. And then when you have something like these whatnot Daredevil packs that are reprints years later of key books, and then certain people are calling them keys, and surprise, surprise, Key Collectors has them, instead of saying no key value, it says reprint of first appearance. So why is there a distinction for that, but a cover B that was printed at the exact same time as cover A has no key value?
Okay, so let me break this down before we continue, right? For the untrained eye or the uneducated when it comes to comic book collecting, because this is like this is specifically to collecting, right? Because
Yeah.
the hobby is very vast. People read, people collect, people sell, right? Um, when you have let's say when you have a comic book come out, right? Issue number one. Issue number one, let's say it has three covers, right? The book is the same, the covers are different because it has different artists work on that cover, right? You have the main cover, you have an A cover and a B cover, right? For a total of three. Those three books belong to the same print run. When that book came out and the publisher authorized it to go to print, they authorized those three covers at the same time, right? If there's something of significance that happened on that issue, those three covers, don't matter what cover you have, those three are a key, right? Because it happened on that comic book. They got printed at the same time. The only difference is the cover, right? A good example I have here by chance. This is We Have Demons, right? This cover is by Peach Momoko, and this cover is by Dan Panosian, right? Both of these came out at the same time with the main cover from on the first print of that book, right? Let's say the book was so popular that the publisher, in this case, Dark Horse Comics, they underestimated how much people were gonna like this book, so they decided, okay, there's a demand for this book out there that we did not satisfy. So we are going to authorize a second print of that number one issue for people that didn't get a chance to buy the first print, right? We only send out 1,000 comics to all comic books stores around the world. So that was our bad. We see our mistake. We're going to print more. This is going to be the second print, right? And then let's say the second print, the main cover of the second print is typically very similar to the original cover from the first print. It might vary on like a color, or the title might be different, so you can tell it's not from the original print run, right? And then and on that second run, you'll have like another variant cover, right? And I'm just putting this up here for people that can see, that are visual learners, right? Like let's call this one I Am Demon. We Have Demons, number one, second print, right? Covered by whoever, right? That second print, yes, it still has that key significance moment for the comic book, but it's not as valuable as that. It doesn't hold the same value. It should not hold the same value as that first print, right? Number one, because the first print is the original run of the print count, and uh, uh, number two, typically, right, because this is all on the market, all on the demand that people have. The original, first issue that first come out on the first print is what people tend to collect. That's where the demand is. Now,
Usually.
usually,
So like I do want to say, like, there are some times where, like, with the first appearance of Dr. Afra, the amount printed was significantly decreased each printing. So like the fourth print is the one that a lot of people are searching for because that's the least amount printed. So there's the least amount on the planet. Now,
right,
I personally don't think that a second, third, fourth, 11th, the billionth print should be worth more than the original print, no matter what.
right.
But I at least understand someone wanting the less printed version just for their own benefit. And I can see why some people would charge more for the later prints if the print count is decreased, like substantially, like in the case of Dr. Afro.
Let me give you another example where a second and third print hold some value, right? Because of like outside circumstances. When Ultimate Black Panther number one came out last year, I want to say like early 2024, there was an issue with Diamond where a lot of the copies from the first print of issue number 1 got lost in the sauce for one reason or another. Yeah, you might remember this. For one reason or another, a lot of Ultimate Black Panther number 1 did not make it to comic book stores, right? So if they printed, let's throw numbers out there, 100,000 copies on that first run, and this is like all covers, A, B, C, all the covers. If they printed 100,000, maybe like 40,000 actually made it to comic book stores, right? So they immediately authorized a second and even a third print of that comic, because there was other man out there that was not made because of extraneous or outside circumstances, right? So I remember this when I went to a comic book store the day of. I got my copy. Cool. The next day, when the news broke out that a lot of copies, they weren't just late, they were not gonna make it. Stores here in Colorado Springs, right, had their copy at $18 to match what was the price or the market for value on places like eBay, because people knew, oh shit, this book, people are not gonna get it.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna work. It's gonna, it was you can say price gouging like 100%. That's the case, right? But that's what happened. The price went up because the amount of copies out there was even less than anticipated. So if you look up like the second print of Ultimate Black Panther number 2, or even the third print, it will be a little bit higher than like the cover price, because the first print run was lost, and they had to print more.
No, that's not price gouging. That's just maintaining the market value. But and there is a point there, because when you look at things like that, it is, in my opinion, I don't have to like it, but it is every much in the store's right to do so. They
They can do what they want.
especially
It's up to you, the consumer, right? The customer, whether you want to pay for it or not. If you look up that book right now on eBay, I think not like a bunch of copies, but one copy is probably going for like $60 right now, of like issue number 1, cover A, first print. So,
and and that's the thing, like when stuff like that goes into talking about like the lore of multiple prints, more so than even the key aspect, because while they're all the same keys, that now is harder to find because of a quote unquote production error or something that just made them disappear magically. So that for me is would actually should increase the value, because it's one of those things that like just doesn't happen. You know what I mean? So I understand that increasing value. And when you talk about like keys overall, because there's not just the whatever is printed by the publisher. There's also a ton of exclusive comics for almost every issue, almost every single comic these days. And listen, I'm not pursing my nose up to that. I am an exclusive dealer. I have an exclusive for Exquisite Corpses coming out this month. So I'm not saying how dare people have exclusives. I think there are too many, to be honest, but that's another story for another day. But those, in my opinion, especially when they're released with the original print run, like when it comes to these exclusives, Image is going to send us those. Like they approved it, and they're printing those along with their first print. They're going to be at my distributors on Monday before the release of the book, so we can release them on the day of release, like the cover A, B, C. Those two, in my opinion, absolutely. And again, let's just preface, we didn't say it before, but these are our opinions, not anything to do with anyone we work with or anything like that. These are what we feel as content creators, people in the space, and all of that. But if it comes out with the original print run, that should still be a key as well, in my opinion. And I know a lot of people disagree. I've literally been told, no, it's an exclusive. That's not a key.
it
Again,
could
I
be both. I
disagree.
don't understand why
But
it has to be
and
so
that's the thing.
trivial, right?
Well,
Like,
it's because of the space we're in now. It's very toxic right now. And when people have difference of opinions, they refuse to listen to the other opinions, and they just try to say their opinions louder. And instead of trying to come to some middle ground or anything like that, people just kind of do what's best for them and say screw the community. And unfortunately for people like them, people like us exist where we can't help ourselves, and we have to try to help the community as much as we can.
Yeah, I don't have an issue when people are informed and they make an informed decision and how they like to spend their money. But what I don't like is when people are not informed and they are being taken advantage of, right? Like,
Yep.
like bringing it back to the example that you brought up earlier, the Whatnot Daredevil package that's been out for a little while now. If you want to call that a key comic, you have to put the word facsimile next to it.
But see, but they're not facsimiles, because facsimiles are an exact reprint.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like,
okay, but like you have to give like a caveat to it, right? This is it's a kid comic exclusive from whatever second print, third print, because this is a comic that's coming out 10 years, no, like 5 years after the fact.
Right. Well, I think some of them, I think a couple of the issues, it was actually 10 years or so. And listen, there's nothing wrong with a reprint. I want to make sure that's abundantly and absolutely clear. We're not saying you can't reprint books. We're not saying you can't make exclusives for books that have not been out. Like the Invincibles that Whatnot did. Those were amazing, because those, they gave, to the first 100 comic sellers, and they made it about the sellers and not about them, which was huge. I don't have any left. I've sold them all. But that's neither here nor there, because I was on the back. But that's, again, neither here nor there.
But you gotta call it what it is. That's
exactly.
my thing, right? Because I seen people on Instagram like doing like a comic book haul, or look what I purchased, this key comic book for blah blah blah. I was like, I hope you know what you were
told.
Yeah, I hope you know what you're buying. Yeah. I hate that we, like, as a community, a lot of people rely on key comic books as like the source of information, right? And I hate to like break it down to people. Like, I use key collector, right, myself, right? I it's a very useful tool, but you have to also know that besides of keeping up like the consensus of the community, of the history of the hobby of comic book collecting or comic book reading, they also throw stuff in there like arbitrary, like unilaterally. Somebody from that works for the app will decide indoors, hey, put this as a key, put this as a key comic book, put this exclusive as a key. Why? Well, it's limited to 200 issues, right? And people that don't understand the difference between like a book being valuable because of the print run versus being valuable because it's a key, when they go to buy, they might be taken advantage of, and that's the part I don't like. And I've seen it. I have friends in the collecting space that buy a comic book, and I don't want to like piss on their celebration, or like sour their grapes or whatever, but I have to be the one to tell them, like, hey, I know you bought that thinking that was like a key comic book, the market value of it is like whatever, $50. However, that's a reprint, or that's a facsimile, or that's the third print of that book. I'm gonna give you a prime example. The Killing Joke.
Yep.
The Killing Joke has like 12 prints.
Oh yeah, 12. It's around like 5. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, no. Yeah. I myself have like, I think it's like the 7th print copy, right? I seen people buy a copy that has like the green lettering on the cover, which is like the 8th print, I think, thinking they bought the book that is worth like $500, like the first print. I'm like, Yes, it's the same book. It's a key. It's historical. It's important. All those things. But your eighth print copy does not hold the same value as the first print.
Right.
Right? You didn't get a steal. Nobody made you a deal. They sold you. And mind you, all the prints of all the different printing versions of that book hold value. They all do, up to like number 9. They all hold some value, but it's not the same as the first print that came out in whatever 86, 87, whenever it came out.
Right. No, exactly.
Right.
No, and I do admit that I really am very, very, very proud of the community when it came to those Daredevil in the individual books, because I know a lot of retailers who had the bundles, and they were saying that each pack was going for 100 plus, no, guaranteed, no questions asked, and that's on regular sellers. I'm not talking about like the big sellers that probably got it for even more than that. But then when they pull these books, they then immediately throw them right up on eBay for hundreds. Like, there was at one point where one of the Daredevils, I think it was one of the gold ones that was limited to like 200, was the asking price was the same as a 9.8 first appearance of Elektra. That was the asking price. Granted, I've gone back and I've actually looked. None of them sold for those high prices, and almost all of them are dropping in even the requested what they're asking for. I had one. I sent you a notification. It was a 2-cover set. They dropped it $40 from their original price to try to sell it. And I have to say I was worried, and I was very scared for the community, thinking a lot of people were going to just jump at those books like, oh, I gotta get them. And it looks like the community held fast. I was like, you know what? These may not have the value you're trying to say they do.
Yeah, some people did. Like, we know this for a fact. Some people jump at it. They probably didn't know, or they thought that they could buy it at a premium and still make money out of it while it was hot, right? But as word starts to come out and people get the books and actually talk to people about what they actually are as a collector, people, they squint their eyes, or they double check everything. But that's why it's important to like put out information so people, make wise decisions with their money. Listen, if you all about it and you wanted to buy it, like from us to you, do it, right?
Do it.
We all we want to say is be sure that you're making an informed decision on spending your hard-earned money. That's all we're trying to say.
And especially right now, let's be honest, it is tough out there for every industry, not only comics, not only just being a human being right now is rough, so again, we will never tell you not to spend your money on what you want to spend. If you like the cover, you want to spend it, I'm happy for you, and I'm glad you can get the comic you want. I just want you to be informed as to what you're actually getting, so that you don't later go, why did I spend so much on that? When you could, like, granted, if you like the cover because of the cover, then obviously it doesn't matter how much it is, you're going to buy it. But if you wanted that, because you wanted that key, like the first time Wilson Fisk was the mayor, or the first time that Muse showed up, you can spend about the same, if not less, in many cases, and get the real one.
Yeah.
And again, if it's just because of the cover, then I've bought books that were. I spent more on books because of the cover before, and I'll admit that. I like the cover, so I don't give a crap. I'm paying for it. Fine, it's mine. I'm not gonna resell it, so it doesn't matter. I have no problem overpaying for books that are gonna stay in my collection, because I want them for me. So if I have to pay extra for it, I'm gonna do it. But if you're gonna sit there and go, I'm investing in these, well, guess what? That's a very bad investment, because again, it's when you can look at a book and say, and look right into a camera and say, these are key exclusives, when they're not, people are going to believe you because they have no reason to assume that you're lying to them.
Yeah. Let me put this out there for our new collectors, like unexperienced collectors. If you're trying to buy key comics when they're hot, meaning you saw it on a show, you saw it on a trailer, a character come out in a movie, that is the worst time, financially wise, to buy anything related to any of those characters that you saw on the
You're too
screen.
late at that point. You're too late at that
point. At that point, you're too late. At that point, the prices are peaking or they are on their way down, right?
Yeah.
If you really want it, and you have the money, and you know it's not a thing, money's not a thing for you, by all means, spend your dough. But the thing is, 6 months, 10 months, a year and a half, 2 years from now, those are gonna come back down to whatever they were before they got popular, and you'll be able to afford them, right? If you really want it and you can't, spend that type of money right now, wait it out. The market is always gonna fix itself. It's always gonna come down.
We've been collecting comics for long enough that we can literally see it goes up and then it goes down. It goes up and then it goes down. And that's part of the roller coaster. And you know, it's not a bad thing that it has ebbs and flows, because if it was all skyrocketing all the time, then it'll price out most fans from the books. So you know, you have to have those low points as well. But like exactly, if you are trying to get one of those books because it was on someone's top 10 list, or because something about a trailer, you're already too late, because you want to know who also has those books? The people that have stockpiled every key they could find for the last 20 years for moments exactly like that.
Yeah.
And you're going to end up paying more. And again, if it's for your collection, I have done it myself. Pay what you got to pay to add to your collection if that makes you happy. Trust me, if I ever find freaking Hulk 180 and Hulk 181 I can afford, even if it's overpriced, I'm buying it. Like, that's all there is to it. Like, I don't care. Like, that's mine. I'm not selling it again. It's going to stay with me for the day I die. Like, I'm buried with that crap. Like, but it's just, I'm well informed. I know exactly what I'm buying. I know exactly what, you know, the going price should be. And if I'm willing to pay over that, by all means. And we just wanted to talk about the difference and the fact that some things you might be using to determine the value or determine the key aspect of something might not be giving you the whole truth. So just do your own research and make your own decision. Don't just listen to us. Just like we say, don't listen to them 100%. Do all of your things and make sure that you have your own informed decision.
All right, what's next in the agenda?
Next in the agenda, Ooh, we've got a good one. We've got a good one for you, folks. The next part of the Planet Nerdtooine podcast is going to be me and Year are going to talk about Ultimate Wolverine issues 1 through 4. Issue 5 came out as we're recording this. This will air on Sunday night, but it is Thursday. They came out yesterday. We are not going to cover that this time because I didn't get my book in time. Year's got his. He's mad that he can't spoil it for me. Mine's coming in the mail. I'll have it in like 2 days. So we're going to have to wait to do that till the next 4 issues. I guess we'll do it in packs of 4. Here we go. Ultimate Wolverine 1 through 4. Now, to preface this, everyone who doesn't know me as well as Year does, they know how much I love Wolverine. Wolverine has always been one of my favorite characters. He was a short, hairy dude who somehow was still respected by all his peers, and he never got the girl. And then later on, when I start smoking, I'm like, okay, this is my character. So when I hear a new Wolverine is coming out, I'm like, this better be good, or I'm coming for that creator. And I'm very happy to say that Mr. Condon is doing a fantastic job. It's not the normal Wolverine, but it very much is the normal Wolverine, which is kind of a great line that they were able to walk.
So let's start off here. Ultimate Wolverine, or the Winter Soldier, as he is known canonically in the new Ultimate Universe. This run is by writer Chris Condon. The main artist, the main penciler for this run is Alessandro Capuzzo. There's in the colorist is Brian Valenza. After I want to say issue 4, starting issue 5, you have Alex Lins in the art as a guest artist, but we'll get to that on a later date. But Alessandro Capuzio, Chris Condon, Brian Valenza on the colors, and Travis Lanham on the letters. Um, there was a preview of like a prelude of this story in Ultimate Universe Year One or 1 year in, I think it was called, where we saw like a quick explanation of like where the program, the Winter Soldier program, came from. Give me 1 second. Give me that, baby. So yeah, there was since the Ultimate Universe started after 1 year in publication, they did like a special where they have like the main story was unrelated to Wolverine, but the backup story was like 3 pages, and it was like a sort of here's some bread and crumb, some breadcrumbs of the origin story and where this Wolverine comes from, which was pretty cool, by the way.
Yeah, I really did like how, I mean, we all knew they kind of tried to make it seem like, oh, who is this guy? Who is, everyone knew it was Wolverine. Like, who is the new Winter Soldier? It's like, Wolverine? Like, it wasn't as big a reveal, I think, as they wanted it to be. But it still was, what I really like about this title is it captures who Wolverine is at his core. He's very, especially early on in him being Wolverine, because he had the bone claws from birth, but when he became Weapon X, it's very similar to what we see in this book, just by different people, and for different reasons as well. But I really do like this series so much. Condon has done a very good job at telling a very fresh take on a very old character while being true to the character and parting his own path through this new universe.
Yeah, I wanted to say Ultimate Wolverine, it's like an amalgamation or a mix of a lot of Wolverine's lore from like the regular 616 canon, right? Like you have like Weapon X, you have the special what is it called, special weapons program, the program
Yeah,
that created like so Weapon One, Weapon Two, the Winter Soldier, like all these things, right? That's thrown in there too. Then the Winter Soldier aspect of it is more of a geographical decision because,
hmm
as you know, the Winter Soldier is like a Russian asset, right? Like a Russian weapon. But in this universe, the mutants, most of the mutants are concentrated on what they call Eurasia, Russia, right?
yeah,
And in this universe's Russia, the Rasputins are like the people that oversee that section of the world for the Maker. Like the Maker is the ruler of this universe, and over there they have like enslaved, trapped, imprisoned the mutants for the most part, and the Rasputins, for those of you who might not know, in this case are Ilyana, aka Magic, what is his name? Peter Colossus,
yep,
and Red Omega. Those are the three people in charge of this entire region of the world, and they're very much like an allegory for the Soviet Union, like the
yep,
peak of the Soviet Union, right? Like there, it's like very fascistic, communist, like worst of the worst, versions of like communist rule, right? Like they're dictators. They're ruthless. They're merciless. They will kill their own people for fun.
yep,
And they have this lady doctor, I can't remember her name, that is like basically the leading um, person in charge of like the Weapon X program, or the Winter Soldier program. And
yeah,
in this universe, we are thrown in this side of the world where the Winter Soldier, aka Wolverine, James Howlett Logan, works for the Rasputins, putting down the opposition to that government. And lo and behold, the opposition is what? The mutants that we already know. You know, the first issue is Nightcrawler and Mystique. The second issue, oh man.
Yo, the fight, let's pause real quick. The fight scenes in this series with Wolverine and then like the likes of Nightcrawler, Mystique, Gambit. You know, some of these are all of the people that he's been, you know, teamed with, and you know they're who they are. But they're all these new versions, more grittier, more like almost apocalyptic, almost. You know,
desperate.
like
they're desperate.
Yeah.
They're basically they're like a rags and tack group of people fighting an entire country to free the mutants from the, you know, from under the thumb of the Rasputins, basically.
And for the most part, the Winter Soldier, aka Wolverine, is just chopping them to bits. Like he can't, in most of this series, he cannot be stopped. He's like, picture the Weapon X version, but without all of the stuff on his head, and just peak form. Like, because you could argue that the Weapon X, while the most obedient, was very feral, and while this character is feral, it still follows the direction.
It's still under their control. It's still under their control.
Until issue 4.
Yeah, the first issue, he comes out and he murders Nightcrawler, Mystique, and everybody that was holed up in that church. Like, they aren't. Chris Condon is not holding back for the sake of like keeping all the characters alive. Like when he killed Mystique and Nightcrawler on issue 1, I was like, okay, this is gonna be bigger than these characters just cameos or these other mutants being here. Then I think it was issue 2 where the Rasputins flex their muscle, their power over the doctor that controls Wolverine. Like they were kind of like calling her out. I was like, oh, you don't really have it under control. I don't think you're doing a good job. When it was clear that of the 4 field missions that the Winter Soldier had been, he had successfully killed everybody, right? They was just fucking with her. Like, oh, you don't really have it under control. Like, I think, and it was Ileana. It was so petty too. She was like, I don't think you're doing a good job. So this is what we're going to do. And they picked like their best soldiers to put Winter Soldier to the test. Yeah, and they got slaughtered. They literally got, they were like,
they got slaughtered so bad, they didn't even show it in the comic. Like, they just showed him, they just showed the bloody bodies after the fact. Like,
I think it's like carrying their heads or something at the end. That's all you see. That's.
And then when you go like to issue 4, when, you know, he comes across Gambit and Kitty Pryde.
Issue 3, that's issue 3.
That was 3?
Yeah, because 4 is the one with the bear and the wolf.
Yeah. We'll get to that. Issue 3, when he comes across Gambit, who I love in almost any rendition. He's just always so cool. And even they were able to make him cool, but also you can see that he's worried as well. Like, you can tell that he's being funny and all that because he's trying to cover up how scared he actually is. And then the X-Men believe James Howlett to be dead. And we learned that, confirmed that for sure.
They're not the X-Men. There's not like actual X-Men.
Right. Well, we just mentioned, you know,
the opposition. They're called the opposition.
Yeah, the opposition, who happens to be
the X-Men,
with populated by versions of these characters that we know from the X-Men.
Yeah.
So someone doesn't be like, oh, they said it was the X-Men. It wasn't. No. But they truly believe that he's gone. So when Kitty sees him, she's like, whoa, wait a minute, is that Logan? Like, and then Kitty does the whole hand in the head brain massage thing that Cassandra Nova did to Deadpool. I could taste your fingers. They tasted like hate. and she broke one of the psychic walls that was keeping Logan subservient to the Rasputins and in the Weapon X mode. And that was one of my favorite scenes in the entire series so far, because she basically was like, "Remember me," and then just kicked him off the back of a truck and was like, "See you later, pal." Like, I don't know why. To me, that's so Kitty Pryde. Like, she's like, "I'm gonna fix you, but I'm not gonna deal with what happens next." I'm leaving.
And it was really cool depiction of that, like the way they interpreted that moment in the art, because
Yeah,
it's like the Winter Soldier in the middle with like Kitty Pryde with his hands through him like a puppet, and in the background it was like memories, different panels, like splinter memories of them together before he was the Winter Soldier.
yeah.
Um,
And that leads us to the point about issue 4. Issue 4, if you just read that by itself, you have no idea what's going on. You'll be like, "Where's Wolverine? Where is this story going?" But it's basically, you see a big bear fighting off a whole bunch of wolves, and when they all throughout that fight, you're seeing text go across that is more, that you could tell is not happening with what we're seeing. And I really liked, and it took me a second to really even realize myself as an avid comic reader. I'm like, because at first I just assumed it was a vision, like that
right.
he was about to show up and kill the bear and take out the wolves, and so I assumed it was just him regressing into like something he saw when he was in a feral state, and then we find out that's
Same,
not the case.
same. I was kind of like in the same mind space. I thought that at one point he was gonna like be walking in the snow, looking like Weapon X, like butt naked with the helmet, and then he ran into that bear and that wolf, and then
Right.
it was like two things being told at the same time, like that flashback of him like running away, and then we were eventually ended up at the scene that it was being described in the narration, but eventually ended up like the I mean the way I took it, and I know we discussed this before,
Yeah.
the whole bear and wolf thing is it's like a metaphor for his mind trying to wrestle, trying to struggle with like the mental blocks that he has, right? And then when we actually got to the scene of like what was actually happening in those narrating bubbles, I was like, holy crap.
Yeah. So what
Holy
happened at
crap.
the end of that? I mean, or I don't want to say too much. So I hope you guys read it. But basically, everything that the bear was doing ended up being what he was probably doing to all these people just trying to stop him from going crazy.
I got something to okay. When you told me that in your interpretation of it, he could have been the bear or the wolf, right? In that fight, while that was happening, while he was like killing all those people at the lab at the same time. Issue 5 has something in there, and I'm not gonna spoil it, that makes me see the whole bear wolf thing differently now. So I don't want to say that you were wrong, because I thought the same way, but issue 5 is adding more context to everything, and that's the thing about this story, because my take on Ultimate Wolverine is that the Winter Soldier, the Wolverine itself, was like more like a red herring for you to get in and get the book, because the title
100%.
has more exposure and more lore and more world building about Eurasia, about the Rasputins, and about the opposition than about Wolverine himself. We are getting the story of Wolverine bits and pieces. He is just the plot device that is going from point A to point B, and we are experiencing the world and everything that's going on there, structure wise, government wise, uh, um, society wise, because the Winter Soldier is being thrown in those situations, in those moments, in
Yeah.
those cities. But now, issue 5 opened the door to seeing more Wolverine, and I think 6 and 7 are actually gonna like flush out who this character really is. I mean, we know he is James Howlett, Logan. whatever. But we are gonna get to know who he is, I guess, in the second part of the run. I think it's gonna be like 12 issues. That's what I heard. It's been solicited for.
Okay.
So by 6, 7, 8, we'll know like the backstory of how like the backstory between Wolverine and Kitty Pryde and Gambit and how they know him, how Nightcrawler knew him. Like you'll see.
Mm. You know what? We've talked a lot about how this character, like, I hate folks like that usually. Like, I hate when they're like, hey, come read Ultimate Wolverine, but we're going to give you 4 issues of backstory on all these other characters. In most cases, I hate that shit.
And
Because it is, as
you
you
was a
said, a
little
red
iffy
herring.
when you
I
read
was.
issue 2. You was like, "Oh, this was kind of like a drop from issue 1."
Yeah.
And I was like, "I'll give you that because it's not really about Wolverine." I picked up on it immediately. It's like, this is not about Wolverine. This is about Eurasia as a whole. But
But
now, the more you get
it
into
definitely shows how good Chris Cardone is at telling this story.
yes,
Because he told the type of story that I absolutely hate and still made me love it. Because I, for all intents and purposes, should be up in arms. Like, how could they call it Ultimate Wolverine when it's not? But now I'm still thoroughly enjoying the series so far, and I'm mad that I didn't find time in my schedule to make it to the comic book shop. I had to buy mine online from my digital local comic shop. So mine's coming in a few days, and I'm gonna probably the second I get the notification, ding, it's here. I'm gonna run to. I could be working, and listen. I need to go on break. Boom! I'm running to
smoke,
grab it.
smoke break, but you don't smoke. I smoke. I do now. Mind your business.
Today I do. Today I do. But no, and you know me right now, especially. I'm not big on a lot of the superhero content, comic wise. Even in the movies and some. I still haven't seen Captain America. I still haven't seen Thunderbolts. Dot dot dot. Whatever the new Avengers it is. I'm not rushing to go read or see superhero content right now.
But
But
Ultimate Wolverine,
Ultimate
though.
Wolverine got
Ultimate
me.
Wolverine, though. No, but listen, issue 4, we're not gonna skip over this.
Yeah.
Minor spoiler
But
here.
hold on. Spoiler alert, if you have not read issue 4 of Ultimate Wolverine, please, as someone who's a big fan of not only not spoiling things, but of Wolverine and all of the story, the lore, you got 5 seconds to get your booty out of the room.
Minor spoiler here, right? Issue 1, Nightcrawler, Mystique appear in the book. Issue 3, we get Gambit, Kitty Pryde, right? And then issue 2, you see, of course, Magic, Colossus, and Red Omega. Okay, so I'm just telling you, issue 4, you get introduced to like the real, I don't know, golden child for Weapon X in this universe, like the real price position for the Rasputins and the entire government, their own version of Cerebro, number 1. And we get to see Jean Grey and partially Charles Xavier, right? Partially. And it's important to say that because the Cerebro is not called Cerebro. It's kind of like some like this. I can't remember what they call it in this universe, but it's Cerebro, like the whole giant sphere that they used to find and locate mutants, like as we know it. But it's
Right.
slightly different. The way it's built, in the way it runs, the way they're running it. At least this, nefarious people, because these are the bad guys. They're using Jean Grey to psychologically keep their control over the Winter Soldier, Wolverine. So
And then
that's
they made
all.
a point. They made a point to say that they have multiple blocks to keep him in the Winter Soldier program. They have the mental, and then the audio with the commands,
Yeah,
and then there was a third one. What was it? can't remember what the third thing they had. There was three. They had three walls, and one of them was basically shattered by Kitty Pryde.
So it's the like the
the
psychic block.
reprogramming, the electric reprogramming.
Yeah, they got
That's what it was.
the one is being done like with like technology, like when they put him in the tube with the inside the glass with the liquid
with all the lights and the
yeah, that kind of like I guess resets the programming every time he goes in and out. They have like the verbal block, kind of like in the Winter Soldier. You saw the movie when like you know Zemo says the key words and he goes into like operational mode. Yeah, and then the psychic block is done through Jean Grey. So that's the last thing I wanted to spoil about that. Like Jean Grey and Charles Xavier are on issue 4. And then issue 5, no spoiler here because it's on the cover, Sabertooth, and there's like 2 more characters that appear on issue number 5. So like I said, the characters and like the actual story of Logan is being like trickled in through every issue as the world is being built. But this book is amazing. It's crazy. Yeah. The way they launch the Winter Soldier for missions, like they have an airplane fly by wherever like they want him to go, and he just jumps down.
Yep.
No parachute, no nothing, because he has a healing factor. He has the adamantium claws. At least we know he has adamantium claws. We don't know about anything else. And he doesn't talk. He doesn't growl. He just goes out there and murders people.
Word. Yeah. Hasn't said a word through. Well, I'll go out on a limb and say 5 issues.
He does say he does growl at least on issue 5.
Okay. Wolverine's back, baby! No, but yeah, this definitely, if you're looking for something that is familiar but brand new at the same time, and you want a good book to jump onto, definitely look at the Ultimate Wolverine. Issues 1 through 5, as of this recording, have been released. We've talked about 4, unfortunately, but 5 has been released. And the year said we're probably gonna get a 12-issue run, so I'm in on all 12. I mean, and we've talked offline and before about how I'm not really buying comics for myself right now. If I'm buying a book, it's either because I'm paying for my book that's coming out or my exclusive that I'm going to be selling, or something that I'm like, okay, this is going to hold some value. Let me grab this and put this away. That's not for my personal enjoyment. I'm buying Ultimate Wolverine because of the personal enjoyment. It's that good for me. And I definitely would suggest picking it up, especially if you're a fan of any of the mutants and stuff like that. It's just awesome.
So what's next on the agenda? Is it
all right? So next what we're going to do is we're going to do what is Year's Issue, because he's got a lot of them, and contrary to what the thumbnail might be, it's not Free Comic Book Day. So Year as always, right? Year as always has created a great video.
I haven't published anything. There's no Free Comic Book Day issue of Year's Issue. It was just like the
no. We like Free Comic Book Day for many reasons, which we'll get into in a second. But let's go ahead and play that video so you guys can see what's Year's Issue, and then we can get to talking about it.
Have you ever wonder what is Batman's weakness? I mean, yes, he's just a human in a costume. A knife, a gunshot, or women in tight costumes are all weaknesses for the Dark Knight. But all jokes aside, does the Cape Crusader have a real weakness? My name is Jiangxi, aka Year the Collector, and this is another installment of What is Year's Issue? So, my question is there anything that will stop the Batman on his tracks? Short answer is yes, there is. As a matter of fact, a quick online search will tell you Batman has multiple weaknesses. For example, anger management issues. Batman struggles with anger, which can lead him to impulsive decisions, like for example, punching Superman in the face and breaking his hand. Clearly a weakness in character. The no killing rule. Whether you are pro or against this self-imposed rule, the truth is Batman's strict moral code against killing puts him at a disadvantage when facing Gotham's villains. Same villains that have zero disregard for human life. Number 3 is emotional vulnerability. His trauma from his parents' murder makes him susceptible to emotional manipulation. I know at this point you must be asking, Year, what's the issue? Well, I'm getting to it. This episode's issue is Batwoman number 16 from 2018, the Rebirth era in DC Comics. Written by Marguerite Bennett, art by Fernando Blanco, colors by John Rock, and letters from Deron Bennett. This issue has the best example of Batman's emotional vulnerability being exploited. This is Beth Kane, also known as Alice. She is the twin sister of Kate Kane, the Batwoman. Kate and Beth are both first cousins of Bruce Wayne, the Batman. There's just one problem. Beth is clinically insane. She struggles with bipolar disorder or split personality disorder, among a myriad of other mental health issues. When Alice's persona takes over, she's a full-blown villain. She's been the leader of the cult of crime, and currently she's involved with a crime organization called the Many Arms of Death. Alice just launched an all-out attack on Gotham using infected bats. Of all things, right? Batwoman managed to avoid the fall of Gotham by luring the bats away from the city. As you can imagine, this is a problem the likes of which Batman will no longer tolerate. So, if Batwoman is not willing to do what's necessary to get her sister under control, Batman will step in. I think we all agree with Batman, right? Alice should be in Arkham, where she could maybe get the help that she needs. Batwoman, however, disagrees. Kate thinks Arkham is a prison and they won't help Beth at all. But Batman is fed up. He's not even trying to hear Batwoman. Alice just attacked Gotham with bats. This was personal. Beth needs to be stopped and sent to Arkham. Batman will grant no more leeway, even if they're family. So, of course, we're off to the races. Batwoman takes Alice with her, and they make a run for it. I must mention where this Bat and Bat chase takes place, and that is Kane Industries headquarters. Why does it matter where this takes place? Well, it matters because what is about to take place here is one of the most disrespectful things I've ever read in DC Comics. And it's only possible because of Batwoman's access to this building's network. While being pursued by Batman, she logs into the building's sound systems. And just when Bruce almost had his hands on his cousin Beth, Kate played the sound of a gunshot from the same make of firearm that killed Martha and Thomas Wayne. I know you know the story. The Wayne family got gunned down in Crime Alley by Joe Chill. You know Batman's defining trauma has a face, a name, and a location, but you didn't know it also had its own soundtrack, that being the noise of the gunshot itself. Bruce's entire drive comes from this moment. His survival's guilt, the murder of his parents, his victimization in the hands of Gotham's crime. Kate Kane, the Batwoman, a fellow soldier of his everlasting war against crime, just violated his trust by exploiting this emotional weakness. In the end, Batman conceded the win to Batwoman and let her walk away with Beth. What do you think of Batwoman's weaponization of Bruce's emotional trauma? Was it too much? Did she cross a line? Is Beth, aka Alice, worth breaking up with the Batman? Let me know. If you want to watch more episodes of this series, you can look them up on my YouTube channel, or you can join our discussion about these issues in the Planet Nerdtooine podcast. Thank you for watching. You have a blessed day, and remember to read more comics.
right, so Year, why did you choose this issue for this week's issue of what is Year's issue? I said issues too many times.
So the issue with that is no, I don't necessarily have picked any of the issues for the segment for any specific reason. It's just that stuff that I think are worth discussing, or I think are worth putting out there for people to know. This one specifically, I have covered this years ago when I was reading the Batwoman series. So it came up on like my memories on TikTok, I want to say. And I was like, you know what? I could do this again, cover a little bit more, and turn this into what is Year's issue. And for those that are wondering, or maybe that haven't seen it yet, is Batwoman number 16 from the Rebirth run. I think it's from 2019. And I think it's important to highlight moment like this for the character of Batwoman, right? Because I'm a fan of, if I'm a fan of any of the Bat characters or the Bat family characters, Batwoman is the one for me. And it's like things like this that separate her from anybody else in the Bat family, right? Batwoman doesn't pull punches. Batwoman she will cut corners. She will fight dirty. She will, as you saw in the segment, she will hit you below the belt. It doesn't matter if you're friends, if your family, like in this case, Bruce and Kate are first cousins. Yeah, they're first blood cousins. Doesn't matter. If she needs to fight dirty to win, she will, right? And it's important to highlight that, because she's not just Batman with red hair and you know, in a red cape. Like, there is a big difference between, and another big difference between Bruce and Kate is that Kate will resort to killing if she has to, right? Batman is out there now in Hush Part 2, going out of his way to save the Joker. I'm telling you right now, Kate Kane, the Batwoman, she will not save a villain.
No,
she has not done so. Like, I have read everything Batwoman, right? Like, I'm that type of collector and reader. She has never saved a villain. She has never gone out of her way to preserve everyone's life. During the detective runs of James Tynion, she killed a teammate. Clayface was was part of the Bat family for a while, and she shot him straight between the eyes because he was a threat for everyone. My wife is telling me that she remembers the whole thing. So yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Like, Batwoman replaying the sound of the gunshot that killed Bruce's murders to stop him from catching Beth,
her sister. And you know, that talk about emotional damage. That's what, to your point, she had. I mean, granted, I didn't read the issue, but based off of the panels that I did catch while I was watching it, it definitely appears that she may have felt bad about doing it, but knew it was a necessity and had to be done and didn't hesitate. Right. Like, and that's the thing, because we're talking offline about how Batwoman is the closest thing to Batman that we have in the Bat family when it comes to a lot of different things besides the killing, you know, and going that far. Because in most cases, if it's not someone in the Bat family or someone in the Justice League, Batman will calculate the loss to win ratio and go with whatever is the best bet. You know, he does have a soft spot. One of his biggest weaknesses has and always will be his family and the lack of having them. So anything that can trigger it, he froze. Like, when do you see Batman frozen in place?
Stop. Dead in his tracks.
Like,
gave up. He was like, you know what? You got me. You can take your horrible sister and get out of my face. I don't even want her anymore.
That is exactly what they tried to do with the Martha scene in BVS.
Right.
That's exactly what they meant, like that emotional damage that
Trigger,
cut
that
to his
emotional
core.
trigger. Yeah.
Like that was done in the comic better, and where it wasn't, taken as a Martha. Why did you say that name? But that was so bad. But that's neither here nor there. But yeah, I do. I feel like when it comes to the Bat family, so many people it's Batman, Robin, Nightwing. Granted, those are all great. Not a problem there. But they have so many people in the Bat family now, like that, and that are very diverse characters. They're not like, if you look at like Nightwing, he's Batman but with comedic wit.
And, he's
like
Batman for kids because he's nice,
right.
He's hopeful. He'll teach people lessons, life lessons. He'll give people chances. Like he's out there in Blue Haven saving the city, but saving people from like themselves. Like, listen, I hate that I have to do this to you, but you are giving me no choice. Listen, if you would have gone this other way, maybe we wouldn't be in this situation. So think about that in the future, right? He'll take the time to like talk people through their issues. But when it comes to like exploding weaknesses for characters, you typically don't see a lot, especially on like capers, comic books. You don't see emotional weaknesses exploited that much, right?
Right.
Because like typically superheroes that have powers, more than not, they have a built-in weakness, right? So that's like the go-to when you get into the deep waters of like the emotional makeup of a character and how that emotional and psychological aspect of the character can be exploded. That's the things that make it fun for me, right?
Yeah.
And in this case, yes, we know that Bruce is, he has PTSD, he has trauma regarding to his parents, but the idea of sound triggering his trauma, I don't think I have seen that specifically before, right?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Like the Joker or somebody else have like, force him to see like a reenaction of the murder of his parents, or force him to go to Murder Alley, or force him to like save Joe Chill, like all those like visual or physical embodiments of his trauma. But a soundbite, the specific sound that the specific guns makes, I thought that was brilliant. I'm sorry. Call me a simpleton, call me basic, but if you have PTSD, I'm a war veteran, like sounds would trigger PTSD. Mm-hmm. So how is it that it
sounds, smells? It's not just like being in a bad situation. Like you can literally just smell something you smelt that day, and it brings you right back to wherever you were.
And including a soundbite on a visual medium as comic books, it's a big gap to reach, and I thought it was perfectly executed.
Yeah. Because like I said, I haven't read the entire issue, but I will watch the video. I look at the stuff that you include, and the way they did that, like you could see, like you could almost hear it. You know what I mean? Like you kind of, you know what it was? You didn't hear it while you read it. You felt it.
Yes, and you know why? You know why? You know what's a big part of that reading experience is the lettering, because in the scene where the gunshot goes off, it's like a huge like blam or bam or something. Can't remember the exact word, but that huge onomatopoeia tells you how loud it was, because Kate played that sound in the entire sound system of the building.
Yeah.
Right?
Like, and I'll see that too could have been part of it, just because it was so loud. You know what I mean? Like I feel like Batman in many cases could potentially, like use his advanced intellect, or like kind of like be able to cover his ears or something. Like I feel like he should have been able to do something, but then you look at the fact that it was an entire building sound system that would have overrode anything, and it did. He just stopped. He was just dead in his tracks. Like
all he said was he went like, no. Like,
Yep.
I know what you just did. I know what that is. I know what that is.
He's looked at world and universe destroyers in the face and not flinched.
Right.
But that sound triggered it in a real way. Unlike a lot of people say, "Oh, I'm triggered." No, that was a real trigger, and he hurt the band.
And you can say, Batwoman beat Batman with prep time. Yeah.
Before we get attacked, Batman didn't have as much prep time, so all you Bat stands can't get mad that he said that. For the record, okay? But yes, you're right, absolutely. She was prepared more than he was, because and that's the difference right there between Kane and Batman, because he does that with his superhero friends, he doesn't have individuals for most of his Bat family because they're the contingency against him.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's the thing that separates Kate from Bruce. She is willing to cross that line because she crossed that line, right? She's family. That's personal. That was her aunt, right?
Yeah.
Who died. That was her family who died too, and she was willing to cross that line to stop him. So
and she did it for her own blood, more blood, I guess you could say, because it was her twin sister. Yeah. And the biggest issue is that they have different ideologies as well as to what a punishment should be. Because Batman says we need to capture her and throw her in Arkham, and Batwoman is like, no, that's worse. Like, that's horrible. Like, no, we're not doing that. And Batman wouldn't take, because Batman always knows that's what's best for everybody.
So it was.
Miss Kane said, "I don't think so today, baby."
Yeah, no. I think this was personal for Bruce because number one, he stated in that comic book, he's given Kate some leeway to handle her sister, right? Because he don't want to get involved because she's family.
Right.
But the fact that she used contaminated bats to attack the city.
Oh yeah.
It was all right, no, all right.
You know what?
You can go out there and place Alice in Redland in Wonderland all you want, but once you use bats to attack my city, that's where I draw the line. So he pulled up on them and was like, all right, Kate, your sister, I'm gonna take her in. This is it. I have given you enough space to handle this. You haven't before, right? And for those of you who don't know, this is a very touchy subject for Kate because they're twin sisters, right? And when they were children, they were abducted and with their mother, and Beth were murdered. Kate was the one that survived, right? And then years later, as an adult, when she was Batwoman, her sister Beth came back from the dead. And
as one does in Batman.
Right, as Batman villains do. And they had their scuffles, they had their fights here and there, but eventually the character progress on Beth was that she came back, but she was evil because she was mentally ill, legit. Yeah. She was mentally ill, and there have been recently up to that point some instances where therapy and professional help was getting through to her, and this was a relapse to her Alice persona, right? And if you see the comic, Beth and Alice are struggling for control. So Kate was not willing to fully give up on her sister and send her to Arkham to get locked away and not get the help that was actually working.
Right.
So that's why she decided to fight Batman on that.
And that could also be part of it. You look at the fact that she lost her for so many years. Even if she is off the deep end, it's still my sister that I haven't. You know what I mean? She mourned the loss of her sister, only 2 years later find her in front of her and basically evil. Yeah. That it's not just as cut. A lot of things that Batman, when he makes decisions, he sees things as black and white. In most cases, he does not see the gray. He just either good or bad, and which is ridiculous because he is the grayest of the gray.
Right.
That's neither
He's
here nor there.
a walking contradiction. Yeah.
Right, and it's good to see because it doesn't happen often. But when the Bat family stands up to him, and you can see like he didn't. Most people who did something like that to him, Batman would need that instant visceral revenge of beating them to a pulp, and he just kind of was like, you know what, I'm done,
Yeah.
and just freaking walked away.
Yeah, he could have he could have like not stop and fight, but the impact of the lengths of where Kate took this was so heavy on him that was like, you know what? I'm going home. This is not worth it.
You know what?
You want
just
to
walked
keep
out.
your deranged, mentally ill sister? Be my guest.
Go ahead.
Don't expect to be invited for Thanksgiving or Christmas or whatever whatever family gatherings. You're not welcome. And to be fair, that's been consistent in comics so far. If you see the latest iterations of like the Bat family, Batwoman hasn't been there.
And nothing but props to them for doing that. Because the one thing I see and I hate a lot in some comics is like they'll forget things and then just kind of like move on and then like, oh wait, wasn't that person locked up in Arkham? Oh, they broke out. Like, you know what I mean? Like then they just kind of come up with some random way to make it okay. But when good continuity, you gotta love that.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you like one example before we move on. When Batwoman killed Clayface and Cassandra Cain, Orphan, or she goes now by Batgirl, they were like best friends forever, right? And when Batwoman killed Clayface, Cassandra confronted Cain and she grabbed the bat symbol from his chest and like ripped it off. And she was like, you don't deserve this, or like you can't wear this, something like that, right? And that was like a few years ago. And right now there's a Batgirl comic with Cassandra Cain ongoing, right? And there's a moment where like Batgirl is like having this argument with her mother, Lady Shiva, like, oh no, you should like help me because I'm family, right, Lady Shiva? And Batgirl pulls out a photo from like her back pocket. She's like, no, I do this for my family. And in the picture is everyone you can think of from the Bat family, including Alfred, who's been dead for years. And you know who's not there? You know who's not in the picture? Batwoman. So props for them.
That's good. And bravo. And you gotta love good continuity, Megan. It makes everything so much better, in my opinion. Makes these a lot more real. Because it's real stakes, it seems, even though it's not, because it's comics and everyone comes back eventually, except for Uncle Ben. Everyone else is free to be respawned.
Well, Uncle Ben is alive in the Ultimate Universe.
Well,
so
for how long? You know he's gonna die.
No, you know, Aunt May was the one who died there, so it was a trade-off.
It was
like a deal with Mephisto all over again.
He's gonna die. He's Uncle Ben. That is the law of Marvel Universe. Uncle Ben must die.
I'm telling you, Uncle Ben is alive. Well, there've been like at least 2 moments where I thought he was gone. He was gonna be taken care of.
None of this mess with him. It's like in a hot tub time machine where they go back and it's like they keep thinking that he's gonna get his arm cut off, and every time he does, they're like, "Oh, come on! That should have been it."
Nah, yeah, but once Mephisto shows up in the Ultimate Universe, it's a wrap. So be on the lookout for Mephisto on the Ultimate Universe. With that being said, the last thing we're gonna talk about is Free Comic Book Day. All right.
So we grabbed a few books I want to talk about, but we also want to talk about Free Comic Book Day as it is and our experiences. I really am glad that a lot of the fears, because I've spoken to a lot of shop owners that were really worried about Free Comic Book Day, because with the whole thing with Diamond that we've spoken about before on the show, it wasn't certain. There's a lot of people who ordered stuff that did not get them. period. Like I know a lot of my friends that I've talked to did not get one of the books that I was able to pick up, Big Rig, which is a Vault Comics book created by Post Malone, which we'll talk about in a second. And people were like, "Oh, I really wanted that," because they allocated, because they just didn't have the supply to meet the demand. And just so anyone who doesn't know, just because the books are free to us does not mean they are free to the comic book shops, because they are not.
They buy them.
They are discounted. Don't get me wrong. It's not like they're paying full price for a regular issue, but they do have to pay for them.
Yeah,
So
they buy those to give it to you for free, but they're not free for them.
right. So now, granted, it's a little late for this year, but if this shows up on your feed before next year's Free Comic Book Day, do the comic book shop that's giving you these free books a favor. Spend some money, buy a book. Buy a pack of trading cards. Even if you don't want to spend a lot of money, just buy something.
Listen. Days like Free Comic Book Day are the days that you actually want to go through those back issues to your comic. Those are the days you want to go and spend money, because typically every comic book shop know that they're gonna have a huge increase of traffic on that day, right? And what they typically do is to offload inventory. They do specials, they do giveaways, they do sales, they discount price on pretty much everything in the store, right? For the most part, outside of like your high value items, everything else typically is on sale, right? So those are the days that you can buy like an entire run for pennies on the dollar. Those are the days that you can get the variant covers from the ongoing runs that you couldn't fit in your weekly budget. You can get those on a discount. You can buy trades at a discount, like you name it, right?
And all shops do their own thing. Some have high discounts, some don't. Like my LCS doesn't have any like real sales for the comic book day, but what they do is they have every Saturday of the month.
I'll be right back.
I'm
gonna grab something here real quick to show on camera.
So what they do is they get free comic books every Saturday, and then you come in, and as long as you spend $5 a day every Saturday, you get a free trade paperback at the end of the month. And those are between $15 and $20 value most days, so it's you basically paying for it for going in, but it's still something you get just for showing up, and you still get the free comic books.
So my store where I pick up my weekly pulls is called Muse Comics here in Colorado Springs, right? They had during Free Comic Book Day, they had, I think it was like 50% off back issues, 20% off of new issues, and 20% off from collected editions, your trades, your hardcovers, right? That's pretty good. Also, if you grab your free comics and you made any sort of purchase that day, they threw in your bag a coupon for 20% off for you to cash it in whenever you want before June 1st. So I have the whole month of May to go back and get an additional 20% off from whatever I purchased from the store. Like,
see, what mine did was you get one of these. It's a free comic book day, and if you show up every Saturday, and you spend $5, you get 2 trades free.
Damn.
At the end of the month.
Damn.
So you know what I mean? Like they say graphic novels, but trust me, they're trades. Because I do this every year now, like to the point where I like half of my family is not even going to be in town for all of it. I was like, just come with me on day one, just so I at least get the tickets, because you can only get the tickets on day one. If I can find someone else to come in and spend $5, I'll even give them $5 just to go in with me, and they still give you free comic books. Like any of the free comic books from this year they still have left over, or last year or the year before, they still give you free stuff, and it's awesome. So definitely support. This is the time, and we've said this on this podcast before. This is the time that we need to support all of our local comic shops, our indie creators, even the Marvel, DC, Image, all of them. We need to support them all as much as we can. Not so much the big three because they'll survive no matter what happens. But
Right.
they still deserve love. Like we also Wolverine, show some love. But when it comes to these free comic book days, because again, they don't get these books for free. They very much pay for them. This is the time where they're giving us so much. We need to give back.
No,
And
let me
as
tell
much as
you.
you can,
Let me tell
all
you,
of it's helpful.
The other two stores did like crazy things I wasn't even expecting. There's another store that is called Iron Lion. The manager of the store grabbed some loan boxes that he had in the back of like new books that he hadn't back and border yet, and he threw them over a table and say, all right, if along with like the free comic book day issues, you can grab any of these new comics.
Wow.
Eight of them, whichever you want. Like one of the ones I grabbed was the this one by Dan Panosian, and like this other one. This is Power Girl #4 variant. This is from an ongoing series. They were just on a table, and then they were in good condition. They had, I guess, the books that from like the wall, like the new comics, as they rotate them, they put them on some like long boxes and like they back and border, and they end up with the back issues. Those were like, you know what? I'm just gonna skip that whole process. I'm gonna put it out here for people to get them, and we got new comics, 8 per person for free on top of the free comic book day issues, and they had 60% off on back issues.
See,
and then there's another store that's called KaPow Comics. It's like a coffee shop and comic book store at the same time. They always have like a big like $1 bin session in the back. Their $3 back issues were $1. And I think like their $1 issues were like half price, something like that. Plus the percentage discount sale on everything else. I ended up picking 2 different runs almost entirely, like Power Man and Iron Fist by Stanford Green. I picked up like almost all the issues for like $1 each book. And then an indie run from Image called Bolero, $1 per issue. Bro,
Great.
These are the days that you go and like where you can get great deals. And by doing so, you support your local comic book store. If you've never been and you don't know, like you go, you get your free comics, ask questions, talk to the other people out there, like, you know, figure out what you like, and maybe, you know, you can get into the hobby. You don't have to be like a Wednesday warrior, right? It's not for everybody. But every now and then you go in there and you'll find a gem, a piece of history, something that will resonate with you or with your loved ones. You never know.
Yeah, well, so for me, like I brought my whole family, you know, to make sure we got some free comic books, and for the most part, I told them what to pick. But then, like, my mom was looking over, she was like, "Is that an Archie? Archie's from where we used to live in New York." I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "Can I get that?" I was like, "Yes, get what you want, absolutely." And you know, like, because she started to collect too, which is really cool. Something cool. we which is really new and kind of weird at the same time. But there's so many, and especially with the free comic book day, they have books for kids, books for adults. If there is ever a time to try to find at least one comic book you like, it's free comic book day, because it's the range of stuff they have is insane. Like, and it's indie, Marvel, DC,
it's a big
Image,
spread. Street Fighter, Star Wars.
Yep.
You got your DC, your Marvel. You got your horror. I found that this year there was a lot of horror.
A lot of horror. Yeah.
Right? Yeah. My wife was going crazy because that's like her lane.
Mine too, and almost everything that I pick to talk about today has some type of horror base to it. But yeah, it's one of those times where you definitely should. I mean, at the worst case, get you some free books. You know, see if you like it, because you never know. You might find something you really like, and you know, which is what we're going to move on to now. Talk about a few books that we did really like. One book that I started off when I first heard about it, I was a little mad. I was a little heated. I was like, all right, so you're telling me Post Malone decided to write a comic book? Bro, can you not like take this? Like you got music, you're in WWE 2K25, you spent $1 million on a Magic card. You're allowed to like your stuff, but come on, leave comic books alone.
You was
I was
gatekeeping. You was
wrong.
gatekeeping.
I was wrong. I was wrong. I was wrong, children. Let me tell you. Okay, the title of the book is called Big Rig, and it's by Vault Comics. Post Malone is the creator. He also shows that he's a co-writer as well. But the other writer is Adrian Rassel, and it was drawn by Nathan. I think it's Goodwin. I think it autocorrected and put Goodman. I'm pretty sure it's not Goodman. When I wrote down my notes for this. Hold on, actually, I have it right here. I'll tell you right now. I'll tell you right now. It's this book, by the way. Big Rig. It is Good Den. Art by Nathan Gooden and letters by Jim Campbell. This book, so the synopsis is, it's the Dark Ages. Demon hordes plague Europe as hell invades Earth. The Six Petals, a secret sect of the Knights Templar, pray for a holy weapon to drive, keyword, back the scourge. What crashes to Earth instead is a big rig. A fully loaded tractor trailer in the aftermath of its arrival. The only man left standing in this is an enigmatic former priest. He will become the trucker and lead the fight against hell with 25 tons and 18 wheels of demon-slaying machine. Okay, that's the synopsis. Let me tell you what this book really is. Okay, this book, and it's good. This is going to be high praise for me. This book reminded me so much of Evil Dead, but more specifically, Army of Darkness. That's the vibe. Because these demons are cracking jokes, making fun of the priests, using other forms of torture, like psychological torture, more so than just being demons and killing people. And then, like, when you least expect it, this giant freaking tractor trailer shows up and just kills a whole bunch of demons. And then this priest, he was basically exiled from this secret group, he gets in the truck and he puts on the trucker hat and grabs himself a smoke and becomes the trucker. And what he does is he just runs over bad guys. Now, this book, it does appear that it's not going to come out as an issue-by-issue title. It does seem like it's going to go straight to the graphic novel stage, where it's just one big book. I went on the website. You can pre-order it now. It is $50 for its chapters 1 through 8, which you can get on right now through the website. So you just type in Big Rig Post Malone. I definitely want to give a shout out to Vault Comics for proving this and pushing this through. And apparently, according to key collectors, there is already a movie in the works directed by Michael Bay. So I definitely think we have a great thing working here, and I'm looking forward. I don't know if I'm going to pick up the trade because this big graphic novel is asking a lot off of one free comic book day to then buy a full $50 book. It's a hardcover and it's a big book, so it's not like it's not worth the $50, but it's a little rough for me to go from issues to I'm gonna buy this big old book. You know what I mean? So okay, what are your picks?
I was gonna say that's a choice to publish a book in trade from the go, but he has an audience. He has a platform.
Yep.
They're not losing.
It's gonna sell.
Typically that's not what you see. My two picks were from the big two, the Marvel, the Amazing Spider-Man / Ultimate Universe free comic book day issue. Not so much for the Amazing Spider-Man stuff. I don't really follow the Spider-Man. I know it just got relaunched with a new writer and a new audience.
Apparently, it's good though from what I'm hearing.
I did read the first two issues. I am a fan of the art because Pepe Larraz is an excellent illustrator. So, but as the writing aspect of it, if you're like a lifelong Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man reader, this is not doing anything you haven't seen before. And that's like the major criticism, right? Not that it's bad, right? It's that if you really know Spider-Man, this is like not more of the same, but not something fresh or new, right? And that's for your older readers for the most part, right? As a set with a set of fresh eyes, I thought it was really cool. And it was interesting because it started off with like this mystery of like Spider-Man is having lapses in his mind, like he's blacking out basically, and he's doing stuff while he's blacked out, and you see him like opening and closing his eyes and being in different locations and not knowing how he got there or what he did, right? So that's problematic for somebody that has superpowers, right? I am sad to say that it looks like Pepe Larraz is not gonna be like the main artist for the ongoing series. It looks like it's gonna go back to John Romita Jr. So if you're a fan of John Romita Jr., by all means, he's not going away. He's doing the backup stories anyway. So I think it's unfortunate because I think Pepe Larraz gives Amazing Spider-Man like a really new, fresh look. But when it comes to the free issue, the Ultimate Universe story, it's like a prelude to a new Ultimate book that's going to come out this summer. It's called Ultimate Incursion, right? And it's about Miles Morales having to travel to the new Ultimate Universe to rescue his sister, right? For those of you that are not aware, the maker broke free, created a new universe, and that's what we call now the Ultimate Universe is 6160. But before he left to create this new universe as he saw fit, he reached out to Miles, and even though Miles is not sure if Miles remember him or not, the maker did remember him from the original Ultimate Universe. And he said, listen, I'm here to invite you to go home with me, because if I was in your shoes, I would like to think somebody would have done the same to me, because I see you as a brother, right? A brother from another universe. And Miles was like, pass, but thanks for the invitation, right? And I saw that as two ways, right? Like Miles or the writer telling the readers, hey, don't worry, I'm not taking Miles back to the Ultimate Universe. But also, it was like leaving that door open because the maker left Miles like this business card just in case he wanted to contact him right later. So at one point those two were at least gonna come together. So in the free issue that came out last Saturday, Miles was thinking, my life sucks. I've been like, I'm going through a rough patch. Things are not going perfect here. Maybe I should seek a fresh start. Maybe I could go to this other universe, and dip my toes in the water and see what it's like over there. But then it was like, you know what? I'm good. There's way too many positives here for me to think of focus on the negative. And he throws the business card on the trash, but then later he finds out that his sister touched it and that like launched her into the new Ultimate Universe. So now he has to go and save her. So just like Ultimate Invasion didn't have any invasion, Ultimate Incursion is not gonna have any incursion. Like the incursion in the Marvel Universe, as we know them, like worlds colliding into each other, that's not gonna happen. It's just the title. Miles is going over there. He's kind of like run around, meeting all the heroes and characters from the new Ultimate Universe until he finds his sister. That's kind of like the way they're going with that. And I thought it was a cool way to see why he's having to go over there, right? Like, what's the reason? What was the reason? It wasn't
just because he actually had a real reason to venture to this new universe. It just because, I want a fresh start, which is fine. Don't get me wrong, but when you have a real legitimate reason versus just a plot point,
exactly.
it's a big difference.
And then the other book that is my other pick is the All In 2025 Special Edition.
Okay.
First of all, I am a dumbass because I had two copies of this book, right? And I didn't realize that one cover was the Superman cover, and the flip side was like the Absolute Universe cover, right?
Yep.
So there I was, no shit, with the Absolute cover face up, scanning it, trying to find it on the app so I can add it to my collection, and the Superman cover kept pulling up, and I'm like, bitch, this is not the book. What's wrong with you? Like, that's how mad. That's how upset I got. I'm like, bro, legal comic geeks don't have this book. What's going on here? But then I actually read it, right?
And
the Superman part, it's like a preview to the Superman Unlimited series that's coming out in the summer, like part of the whole launch of Superman, Summer of Superman, right? Because like the movie's coming out, so they're throwing everything Superman they can out there for people to come and buy. Not bad, but I'm gonna stick to like the main Superman book because that one is amazing, right? So Superman Unlimited, it looks good. I don't think it's gonna be better than the main book by Joshua Williamson and Dan Mora right now. So I'm gonna stick with that one. The other half of that book, which is a story in the Absolute Universe, is the Mirror Master version of that universe, like traveling around and peeking at all everything that's happening, like seeing the Wonder Woman, the Superman, the Batman, and then at the end, the Mirror Master from Earth Prime gets in touch with him, and he said, "Hey, I see you like you just travel through your world and you saw your whole world. Do you want to see mine?" So DC has been hinting at a crossover between the Absolute Universe and Earth Prime. This is not the first time this has been hinted. The Superman comic has also been like showing instances where like there are characters, Buster Gold and like the Legionary heroes from the Absolute Universe that are like crossing over. So first appearance of the Absolute version of Mirror Master, if anybody cares about that, but it's more of like, hey, this guy knows about the heroes, and a bad guy from Earth Prime just got in touch with him. Are they gonna work together? Are they gonna crisscross universes? We're about to find out, right? That's what I got from that.
I have that. That's another one I have to read. My last pick, because we only did a few because it's already got such a long episode. My other one is going to be Mark Spears' Monsters. Now, I will be 100% honest. I didn't get it for the Mark Spears part of it. I did read the Mark Spears. I will say, an unbelievably talented artist. The story is very fun. But I personally think that his work is better suited for just the covers, because it almost felt like the word bubbles were just kind of like pasted on a painting. And it didn't feel like part of it. For me, again, I know a lot of people love the Mark Spears, and I'm not hating on his art whatsoever. It's freaking gorgeous. But it just wasn't for me. But the real reason why I got it is because there was a backup story written by WWE NXT superstar, all ego, Ethan Page, and toy creators Brett Murphy and Wilson Gandolfo. Now, I loved the little story, and it was very the narrator was very much. It almost felt like Ethan Page was talking to me as I was reading it.
Very meta.
It was very meta, to the point where even at the end of the issue, at the end of the little story, it was like, no one reads these backstories anyways, right? Hey, Ethan, Mr. Page, yes, we do. And I got to tell you, I loved what I saw. I used the little QR code to try to download the whole thing, and I downloaded some other stuff from that site, the free books. For some reason, yours wouldn't allow me to download it. So I want it. I want it. Can you give it to me, Mr. Ethan Page? All ego. ego. You know, that's why I got it, and I was very impressed at how good it was. It's basically like a new version of Power Rangers. Random punk kids get mechs to fight aliens, but why was it them? And it didn't give us much in the little short story, but it was enough for me to go, I'm in. I'm hooked. Let's do this. And that's
the
what free
purpose.
content is for.
Exactly. You read my mind. That is the purpose of giving you a free comic book. You get a sample. You liked it. You're gonna go back, and be a customer and purchase it. And that's what it's all about. That's why you gotta check out Free Comic Book Day.
Yep. And that is gonna wrap up this episode of Planet Nerdtooine. Thank you so much. If you're still here at an hour and 40 plus minutes, we really, really appreciate you. I hope you saw this on a YouTube short or IG reel, so you only got a little segment of it and didn't have to sit through this whole thing and listen to us yabber. But until next time, I am Nerdtooine. He's Year of the Collector. Until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.